Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm gonna give you my recommendations on hair companies to look out for. Get your pen, get your paper. I'm gonna talk slow so you can write them down, okay? The first hair company that I absolutely love is Extensions Plus. I've been using them for years. They're based in California. The hair is just great. Kim Kimble also has great hair. Go to kimblehaircare.com. I also love Sassy Mitchell, based in Atlanta, Yummy Hair Extensions in Dallas, Glam Lux in Chicago, Indique, Galaxy 5000, Heat Free Hair. I think they're in DC. They have really, really tight curl patterns for my sisters that want to just have their froze and not put heat on it. Queen Wink, she's an independent company here in Los Angeles, but I love her hair. Terrence Davidson, he's Nicki Minaj's former hairstylist. He has a new line. And True Indian Hair Company. So try those products out. All those companies have great products. I like them for different reasons. Some of them have great textures. Some of them color really easily. Some of them last a long time. But all in all, these are products that I trust. So you can let me know how you like them. You can let me know if you tried them. You know, I love feedback, but those are the hair companies. All right, now it's time to get serious. The next thing I want to talk about is braiding. It's really, really a shame that a lot of sisters don't have edges, okay? Now, we've seen some of our favorite celebrities bald on the side, and it's because of the weave and the wig revolution. People have not been instructed the right way to install hair. And so I am so passionate about talking about this subject because I don't want anybody else to go bald saying that a weave took their hair out. No, your stylist took your hair out, okay? So let's be really clear when we're talking about how to do a healthy head weave. I personally am so happy to do this video because I want to preach my message about painless braiding. That's my claim to fame. I don't braid tight. You can't even feel me braiding. But guess what? The braids last for at least 3 months. It doesn't come out, it doesn't loosen up. They're very secure. And so I teach classes on this around the country about how to do a painless weave because it's so important that your client is not in pain, popping Vicodin, popping Advils every 20 minutes because you're hurting them to the point they can't take it. And then they go home and their hair hurts even more and more and more. They should not be in pain after an investment like that. When you're braiding tight and your clients are in pain, that is the first indication that you are causing them to have hair loss, okay? Hair loss turns into traction alopecia, and that follicle is killed. It's murdered. It's pulled out to the point that it can't regrow. You don't want to be the cause of that. And you don't want to go to a hairstylist that does that type of work. So if you're noticing that your hair is starting to get thin around where your braids start, it's because they're too tight. And you need to consult with someone who can do them secure, but not to the point that they're hurting you, because that's telling you that something is not okay. Stylists, if you're braiding too tight, take my class or practice braiding a little bit more softly but secure. It's all about how you cross the hair underneath each other that creates security. It's not about how hard you pull it, okay? So let's just kill that rumor as soon as possible so we can keep hair on our heads. The last point about this tension issue, stylists, is that if you are the only person in your area that's not braiding tight, guess what? That's more money in your pocket. So be the exception to the rule. Don't be the rule. Because that's what's gotten me to work with a lot of amazing people, is the fact that my braids don't hurt. You can't even feel them. I've been flown across the country just to braid people's hair. And not even do their weave, just to braid it, because guess what? They don't want to feel that pain and they know it's better for their scalp. Now this tip is for clients. If you're gonna pay for a $100 weave, you can't expect to have really, small, flat braids, okay? You're gonna expect to have, 8 braids, it's gonna be a little bulky, you'll feel some tracks, that's what you're paying for. But if you're paying for $250 or more for your weaves to get done, at this point, braids should be moderately sized. They shouldn't be super thick. You should be able to get a wear out of your weave for 2 to 3 months. So it just depends on how much you're willing to invest in the service and in the hair. But normally for a good weave, you're gonna spend between like $400 and $700 on the hair and on the braid up. But the braid should be flat, smooth. If you wanna pull your hair up, you should be able to do all those kind of things. There shouldn't be just bulkiness and fat braids at the back. That shouldn't happen. Unless you're spending $60, $80, $100, you get what you pay for, I'm sorry. Anything more than that, you should expect a better service. And stylists, if you're doing super fine, meticulous braids and you're only charging $75, you need to change some things, okay? You're giving away way too much. The services that you're giving with small braids and good stitching, it's important to make sure that you're charging for it because it's worth it, especially if you're licensed. If you're not licensed, I don't really have much to tell you. I don't personally believe that you should be charging clients yet for your services at a professional level if you're not a professional. There's so much more that goes into being a hairstylist than just knowing how to style or sew hair together. So I don't recommend charging like the salon would. I don't even recommend selling them on services that you've never learned how to do professionally. That's just my personal opinion. I hope no one is offended by it, but because I've spent a lot of money on my education, a lot of time, I do think that we as professionals should be valued more than someone that just knows how to use a needle and thread. It's important for consumers and stylists to know what options are out there. So you can either get a full weave, a partial weave, a fall, a wig, a closure, an invisible part, you know, interlocking. There's a lot of options out there. And all of these things are customizable based on the client. So a full weave, it basically covers about 90% of the head. Usually some people like to leave out a top part around where their part is going to be, and then sometimes around the perimeter. If you want to leave an extensive amount at the top out, that's usually considered a partial. So all you really have is about half of the bottom of the head, about this much of the head. So that's a partial weave. That's good for girls with long hair who just want to add a little length, but like having the versatility to do their hair. Partials are great for you. If you don't want to do that much to it, a full weave, probably with a closure or an invisible part or interlocking, depending on what your stylist can give you, is going to be the best bet. That is totally, you're free of maintenance. You don't really have to do much, but wake up and curl your hair a little bit and go. So those are important. There's also a fall piece, which is, it's kind of like a wig, but it has a U-shaped part, so you can leave some hair out. That's kind of one of my favorite things to wear. I wear them all the time. I clip them in. Sometimes I'll sew them around the perimeter. Also a full wig, it almost looks the same as a full weave with a closure, but it has to have a lace part to it, or at least a silk-based part at the closure or at the part line. So these are all great options because you can sew a wig on just around the perimeter for somebody that wants to come in and out of it fast and don't want to sit in the chair and get the full thing. Maybe you should get them a wig, braid it up, sew it around the outside, style it, cut the service down, and you can go. The next thing that I want to discuss is sewing. I'm not going to go into great detail because a lot of sewing techniques are better shown and not talked about. But what I do want to say is that number one, the hair should always be sewn primarily in a U-shaped part. What that's going to do is create closeness around the head, and it's going to bring the hair falling this way instead of falling back. So a lot of times I see people with extensions and it's like their weave is back here and then their hair is here. And the reason being is because they took the track straight across instead of making them in U. Also, the tracks should be more or less a finger space apart. If you have big fingers, then maybe don't use yours as an example, but you know, an average size finger space apart is about average. Depending on the texture of the hair, you can space it out a little more in certain spots in the back, or if you want it really full, if your client wants it really full, they can stack them up together. But that's why texture is so important, because if you pick the right texture, if you like full hair, you won't have to stack the tracks. If you have full hair, if you bought it really thin and silky, then you will need 5 bundles. But if you got wavy curly hair that you straighten, once you straighten it, it's gonna be full enough that you only need 2, maybe 3 at the most. The third and final thing I want to say about sewing the hair is that hairstylists, please stop pulling the track around the head as you're sewing. The tension that you're putting on the beginning of the track, usually around the perimeter, is causing hair loss. When the hair grows, it grows back and it grows up. So if you already have pulled the hair in the same direction to go back and up, it's gonna take all of the hair that is wrapped around and bring it with it. Then what's happening? Your clients are losing their hair. And if you're not noticing this, you have to start paying attention. But you really wanna just place the track where it belongs. There should be no extra tension in pulling as you sew, okay? Don't pull it, just gently bring it along so there's no gap, so there's no bulkiness, but don't give it that extra tug. It's not doing anybody any favors. The final thing I wanna talk to you guys about is blending. Now this is also just as important as picking the right hair as anything else. Blending is very important to making that hair come to life. And when I talk about blending, I'm not only talking about the texture blending, but also the length, the density, everything blending and flowing together. So putting a good cut on that hair is essential. Number one, don't put hair in and just think because you got a 14 and a 12 that you don't need to cut it. You still need to cut it, usually around the face. You usually need some face framing in certain spots. Hair is thinner also around the face, so you want to thin it out in certain places. Even if you do a really blunt line, you still kind of want to thin out the bottom so it looks natural, so it doesn't look like a weave. We want to fool people. Even though it's accepted to wear extensions, you still want that hair to look like you grew it and it's yours, right? Blending is key because you want to make sure you're wearing the hair and it's not wearing you. So it's important to go to a professional that knows how to cut just as well as they know how to put in the weave or color it. And I know a lot of people, they find one person that does one thing, somebody else that does another. There are a lot of talented hairstylists that can do it all. So it's important to do your research again. But when it comes to this final step, make sure that they are adding a cut on it, defining it, thinning it out in certain places, just bringing that hair to life, okay? It's important to customize hairstyles for your client, shaping it around the face, giving it detail. Those are all very essential to making the hair just beautiful. Hairstylists, it's also very important for you to understand and know a lot of different techniques to blending the hair. Styling it is essential. Everybody shouldn't walk out bone straight. Everybody shouldn't walk out curly. But if you're doing leave outs especially, you want to make sure you're doing techniques that are going to blend in the hair to the weave, okay? I have created some amazing techniques that you use with my favorite tool, a flat iron, obviously. And basically it's showing you how to create waves and really tight curls with the same tool, a flat iron. So if you don't believe me, you can go to one of my older videos. It's called the Beachy Wave. And I created a new technique to get wand curls with the flat iron. So now I have a DVD that shows you even more techniques for a really low price. But it's very, very helpful when you don't want to purchase a crazy amount of tools. A lot of times we get caught up in buying small irons, big irons, double prong irons, all these different things. And so I just wanted to help hairstylists and people who are just good at doing their hair. I want to make your life easier by using one tool to achieve several looks. So go and get that. It's on my website, but it helps totally with blending, especially textured hair. Those really tight curls, and then people are always like, what do I do at the front? I've solved it for you. So go get the DVD, tell me what you think. I'm sure you'll love it. All right, that's all the tips I have for you. I hope that some of these things were helpful. When you get your weave and also when you're doing your clients, just be mindful of the healthy way to achieve the best look. Thanks for watching, and make sure you give me your feedback, more questions, or any tips on what you want me to talk about in the future on my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Angela C. Styles. And once again, get the DVD, Flat Iron Styling Texture Series, on my website at angelacstyles.com. Thanks for watching.